I will tell you that I've gone back and forth on this in my mind many times because I do think that smartphone pricing, there's an argument to be made that it's gotten super out of hand. At the same time, the iPhone 10, the 10.
The 10.
Like OS 10.
I can't call it X.
Even though there's an X, which I really should have seen coming in retrospect. I was like, right, OS 10. iPhone 10.
Yeah, 10th anniversary.
I get it. Yeah, 10th anniversary. Although
also, 9 is kind of like, I could skip the 9.
Yeah, don't do 9. But iPhone X
9, I'll wait
sounds
for 10.
kind of cooler to me
X is
than
much
iPhone
cooler.
10. Like, it
does
sounds
sound
cooler.
cooler.
Like
Professor
SpaceX.
X, Professor X.
Yeah. I think they're biffing it. I really do, which is a larger theme. I think after having seen some of the benchmarks for this phone and watching what Apple's doing, which is essentially create a super premium category within their already premium lines, right?
Genius.
They've done it with the MacBook. Like they refreshed all the MacBooks and then they did the really fancy one that had USB-C. I mean, it's for people who are... What they're kind of doing is this very clever mini Microsoft strategy where they have backwards compatibility with an iPhone 8 that works just like and looks identical to the one that you have been using since the 6. So it's not very scary. Mm-hmm. But for people who are super fans and who are willing to learn new things and learn new behaviors and pay more money, then they have this sort of other line of goods and like Hermes watch bands. And, I mean, they're clearly sort of creating a new strata within their product lines, which I think is really interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
And then that said, as much as it pains me to admit it, I think the phone is worth $1,000. It's faster than a MacBook. Did you see some of the benchmarks? It's faster than a MacBook Pro.
It's really incredible, but I think people who worry about this $1,000 price point, it's just going to push people to the monthly payment installment plans a lot more. Because what's a few more bucks a month? It's like one day that you don't take an Uber.
Yep.
Whoa. Easy on the one day not taking. What you mean is
it's
one
a lot of
less
days.
blue bottle coffee.
One less blue bottle coffee.
Please. Let's be careful here. Don't mess with my money. Keep going, Sarah.
But, it's one of those things where you're like, I could afford $5-10 more a month. And then you can, make this work in a non-premium tier as well for people who are just so attached to their iPhones because it's just part of their whole ecosystem.
Yep. I mean,
it has been for years.
It's very expensive, but it's true that the way that we buy phones in the U.S., the day of the announcement, the one thing I think is interesting is that they're in some ways pricing themselves out of China.
That's a good point. That argument doesn't apply to international.
Right, because we buy phones in a totally different way in the U.S. We don't pay for them. We pay for them monthly. We get them highly subsidized by carriers.
Contracts.
And that is not a common model, and that's not a model that exists within, let's say, the Chinese middle class. However, I was looking at the Apple website and noticed that because their model their strategy has always been we have a new thing, so the old thing never existed. We were always at war with Oceania, right? It's like the old models completely disappear and you can't buy them anymore. But if you look at the Apple Store now, they are still actively selling iPhone models all the way back to the 6. And then including the iPhone SE. So if you really looked at their entire line, they've got a ton of iPhones for sale at a ton of different price points.
Doesn't that just make it more confusing for customers, though?
Yeah, it's a hot mess.
This is not the Steve Jobs simplicity. This is a lot of different tiers, a lot of different options.
Let me give a quick thank you to my friend Scott Walker. Walker Corporate Law is a boutique law firm and one of the oldest partners and sponsors of This Week in Startups. They specialize in representing entrepreneurs and startups, and they encourage fixed fees, which means they will not scare you when you get that bill from your attorney every month. You're going to know what you're going to spend ahead of time. Super important for startup companies. They believe billable hours reward inefficiency. And their lawyers all have decades of experience, 10, 20, 30 years. No junior associates learning on the job with your startup. They do things like acquisitions and mergers, licensing, terms of service, privacy policies. And Scott Walker is a true mensch. He comes to all of our events. He gives tons and tons and tons of his time for free to startups to help them grow. He is passionate about startup companies and entrepreneurs. Give him a call, 415-979-9998, 415. You know is San Francisco, so just remember 979-9998, 979-9998. Or email Scott at Walker Corporate Law, Scott at Walker Corporate Law, or visit walkercorporatelaw.com. Thanks again to my friend Scott Walker, who is just a tremendous supporter of startups.